Hello and good evening. Welcome to the late edition. I'm Gautam Roy and today is the 153rd birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda and the nation marks the day as National Youth Day. India is set to become the world's youngest country with 64% of its population in the working age group by 2020. With the West, Japan and even China aging, this demographic potential offers India and its growing economy an unprecedented edge that economists believe could add a significant 2% to the growth rate. But this youth power needs to be leveraged. The young need to be inspired, skilled and provided jobs or guided along the entrepreneurial path. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken about it today addressing the National Youth Festival in Raipur just a short while ago. Let's see what happened there in Chhattisgarh.
A 5-day National Youth Festival began in Raipur, Chhattisgarh on Tuesday. It marks the 153rd birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda, the inspirational spiritual guru who made India known to the Western world. The festival began with a glimpse of mini India, with thousands of youth from different states and union territories participating. Speaking to the youth via video conference, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Swami Vivekananda and Bhagat Singh youth icons and said the whole world is looking towards India, the world's most youthful nation.
आज हिंदुस्तान विश्व का सबसे युवा देश है। 65% जनसंख्या 35 से कम आयु की हो, वह देश कितना सौभाग्यशाली है कि जिसके पास कोटि-कोटि युवा हृदय हैं, युवा लोग हैं।
Prime Minister said India is characterized by peace, unity and harmony, and despite its huge diversity, the country stands united.
भारत ने दुनिया को दिखाया है कि जिस देश के पास सैकड़ों बोलियां हो, अनेक भाषाएं हो, अनेक परंपराएं हो, अनगिनत विविधताएं हो, उसके बाद भी साथ जीने मरने का स्वभाव हो, ये हमारी बहुत बड़ी विरासत है जो हमारे पूर्वजों ने हमें दी है, स्वामी विवेकानंद जैसे महापुरुषों ने दी।
On the occasion, Union Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari called on the youth to follow in the footsteps of Swami Vivekananda.
स्वामी जी का एक प्रसिद्ध अंग्रेजी वाक्य है कि उन्होंने कहा था कि नो फिलोसफी कैन बी टॉट टू एम्प्टी स्टोमक। स्वामी जी ने भविष्यवाणी की थी कि 21वीं सदी जो है वो भारत की है, हिंदुस्तान की है और यहाँ बैठे हुए सभी युवाओं की है, भविष्य आपका है।
The theme for the 20th National Youth Day is Youth for Skill Development and Harmony. Youth from all states and union territories except West Bengal are participating in the Youth Festival. An exhibition of weapons and explosives used during war was on display by the Indian Army, but it was not only weapons on display, but also information about how to make a career in the armed forces. Also part of the festival are a youth convention, food festival, young artist camp and adventure sports.
Now, many flagship schemes of the government ranging from Skill India to Startup India, not to mention Digital India and Make in India, are tailored to leverage India's demographic dividend. Even the industry is being roped into skilling efforts with the conclave in Mumbai today. How will India get maximum returns from its youth power bank balance? Well, we have two guests in our studio to talk about it. We have Rajiv Sharma, who's the MD of Empower Pragati, training partner of the NSDC, the National Skill Development Council, and Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee. He is the consulting editor for Business Standard. Let's begin with you, Rajiv. Do you feel that India is doing enough to be able to, keep this as a demographic dividend and it doesn't become a liability in the years to come?
So their answer is yes and no, frankly speaking. Last few weeks or months, you can see that there's been a huge surge towards the noble ideas which this new government conceived in year and last since time it's in power. I can speak about Skill India, frankly speaking. That's a very strong push to keep the youth engaged, and it serves two purposes. One, very clearly serves and it actually will help in avoiding any social unrest like it happened in some of the countries in Europe, where if you don't find engagement and employment for the youth, which is young and have a mind which is free, what will do?
Right.
So he'll engage into activities which
An idle mind is okay.
Second thing is, if you engage him and if you skill him and provide him employment, then what happens that your young population gets engaged, and it actually will contribute, to my mind, somewhere at least 1% to the economic growth rate of the country. So Skill India is a initiative which actually, to my mind, is one of the greatest one out of the all initiative taken by
And it has very lofty and challenging goals.
Absolutely. 500 million, Congress government fixed it. Now this government says about 250 million for sure. We need to, and for that huge amount of resources required. And I heard the other day Mr. Rudy was speaking and saying that we need about 3,55,000 crores of rupees to skill 250 million even. And towards that, today, as you said in your opening remark, there was a skill conclave in a 5-star hotel in Bombay,
Yes.
where about 6-7 cabinet ministers were there in the morning from 8 to 11. And one of my colleague directors also attended.
Top corporate honchos were also there.
Absolutely. So what is the actually idea is that till this date, if you can say that corporate India was quite immune or quite neutral to sort of to contribute towards the skilling people. They need skilled manpower, but they would not contribute, and they would not actually. I come from a background, if you like, I spent 25 years in corporate India, and I working in different companies. I've seen that, you know, I as a CEO of Airtel also, I've never seriously looked at it as I must contribute. If I need 100 people, I've been very selfish and I find a method to being honest about it. But today is this conclave where the people saying that you would need people and you spend money very selfishly for 100, 200,000 people. Why don't you start from the beginning? So create a state-of-art center, contribute into that.
Actually,
and we would give these schemes, and the training partners will come forward. And
Shubhamoy, the industry should grab this opportunity with both hands, because normally their complaint is that, you know, we get people when they come seeking jobs, they're not trained enough, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the ability to do a decent job, and we have to train them first while they work. And here they had that opportunity, so that's what they wanted, didn't they?
I suppose so, but as Gautam, you put it, the point is they need in any case to be skilled and skilled at various levels. So right from the basic level of just carrying the packets from one point to another to the more sophisticated level. And there simply aren't that many type of people available in the market. So industry ends up poaching.
Yeah.
So it's not just the big industries, you find that a phenomena even among restaurants. Then local neighborhood shop, you suddenly find the guy who was serving, creating food there, has next day moved on to something else. It's simply that same thing happening. It's the same pool which is being tossed around several times. So yes, there is a terrific shortage, and yet at the same time, outside there's this huge
abundance.
army of unemployed people sitting around there. So where does the gap come? I mean, who bridges it? So people like Rajiv will be the people who will actually have to, you know, take these people by literally buckets and train them, make them suitable for being put into the different industries.
And it's best if the industry itself is involved in that process, because then they can tell them that this is what we need, and you train them at this, and then we'll employ them.
Right. Now the big problem that comes along at that stage is that there are very few industries in India which have really measured how much of these sort of people they would need.
Okay.
They have certain ideas, but roughly even now, and let's take the public sector, they measure their requirement in terms of the engineers they would need. At best, some other side functions. But to be able to go down and to say overseer down, that these are the sort of people that we'll be needing consequent to our expansion. Frankly, that sort of human resource management and that sort of skill, so pairing skills along with that is not something that even the best of public sectors have done. So I don't think the private sector also, large swath of it, they know they need it. But to be able to say really that going ahead 3 years or 4 years down the line, I know I'll need so many people, is something that the Indian industry is also getting used to.
Is that something that you're encountering and that you're pushing to be rectified? Because at the end of the day, even if you skill these teeming millions of youth, and they have a lot of then skill that is apt for industry, they need those jobs. There is Startup India, of course, we'll talk about that as well. But jobs is what is essentially required.
So he raised a very important point that nobody is bringing new supply, fresh supply. Take 16, 17 years back, BPO industries. What was happening? It started very fantastic industries and it's grown. But so much of poaching happening and attrition was almost 30% on a monthly basis. Then what happened? Some people came back and started training and fresh supplies started happening. So multinational organization came in and opened BPOs. Today it's flourishing and it contributes hugely to the growth of the country. You take e-commerce and I can give you a live example of logistics, the bikers. If you will take Delhi NCR itself, would need today currently almost over 50,000-60,000 bikers. Now there is no fresh supply happening. None of these fresh new startup companies like Flipkart and e-commerce or Paytms and all those are interested in really skilling people. They are interested in having people because they are in a different business. They are in business of doing business. They are not in business of skilling people. So what happens? They are blinded to the fact that we need fresh supply. And if they do not, then supply is less and demand is so much. So what will happen? The guy keeps changing the job. And keeping that in mind, what we did, we recently have actually started a consumption point for the skilled people. So that one company skills and another company consumes and supplies. And simple thing is that certain skilling companies actually without really caring too much whether they'll get consumed or not, should go on. And if he is right, there is no possible proper measurement how many people will require. So if you go to his corporate house and say, tell me please how many numbers you will require, tell me, I'll produce and I'll skill them, they'll not. Public sector certainly does it, but private sector doesn't do it. Private sector grows on a day by day. It's like for this year business plan is this, so we'll need these many people.
So it's a bit like hand to mouth.
आज की मिला उतना ही खाएंगे.
That kind of thing. So but fact is that should not blind you to stop skilling. You must. Because I'm saying, as I said in the beginning, there are two purposes. One is that engage this youth, okay, and second is that
employ them.
Employ. So it will happen. For sure, it will happen. That's number one. Number two, other thing is also very important, which needs to be done, which the government is doing. Ads are going on right now, is to make skilling aspirational. Today, if you look at the vocational skilling primarily, no parents want to send their kid, even if he is academically poor, to go and skill in 90 days and get a job.
Right.
If he has means to get a graduate or postgraduate and MBA from third grade university,
actually that's a very major point, because in India, this we have discussed in fact earlier. In fact, I remember this here itself possibly. This idea that getting training after class 10th as a vocational training and getting training as part of a school curriculum makes a huge difference.
Right.
Because when one comes from within the school, then that person doesn't feel that I am sort of made infra-dig. It's a lower position. Whereas if the person is actually weaned into training as part of the school classroom, like studying other subjects and along with that this also, then that allows for greater assimilation. The guards, or you might say the protection or the sort of barriers come down, and that I think is a very important thing.
So this has started, by the way. This is started. Now what they are doing it, they are starting skilling as early as class 9th. And it is also we are skilling in 500 government schools, and we are providing teachers, and we start from 9th. So 9th there is a history class, mathematics class, Hindi class. Similarly, there is a retail class.
And perhaps the other thing that needs to be added on is earn while you learn.
So I'm coming to that. So the two things that happens. One is the 9th class, he goes through level 1, then level 2, level 3, and level 4. 67% or 65% people drop out after 12th class. That's a reality in this country. So if he has learned some skill while in the college, and even if he's dropping out for X, Y, Y reason, he has a ready-made option to bank on and pick up his livelihood. That's number one. Number two thing happens that while if he gets skilled, so take Himachal. So we are training about 150 schools. We made sure that all the students who 11th, 12th, when the 3 months holidays in December to February, schools are closed because of snowing there, those get engaged into different. So we make them a mobilizer, we train them as a trainer and bring them to Chandigarh, or we get them a job. So while studying, they're also earning money. Like
that's great. The other aspect is, of course, Startup India, to give the entrepreneurial zeal to people who are skilled, who are trained, apart from just giving jobs. This in turn will have a spin-off in terms of job creation as well. The PM himself today said that if you can give jobs, why do you just aspire for getting a job in some company? How excited are you about that as an economic journalist?
Yeah, I'm excited, and more than that, what I'm particularly interested in is, for too long, this is part of the colonial mindset that had come along, that I'll get a job and I'll just be, because there's nothing much that I can look forward to.
Yeah.
So I just try to get wangle some sort of job, either in some company somewhere. Government job is the top of the pops, but even otherwise, एक नौकरी मिल जाए.
शादी कर लो आगे.
शादी तो बाद में अगर मिलेगा भी, लेकिन सबसे पहले है कि किसी नौकरी मिल जाए. And I don't want to even think about anything more, because it was that colonial mindset which came along, and it sort of stultified the nation. This breaking the mold to say that you take care of your opportunities is something which actually needs. I'm rather happy that it's being talked about so much, because that actually allows people to start thinking in a different way. The job is not the only thing or the only way to look at life, and it's especially necessary for the people who are in the poorest segments of the society.
Yes.
That they should be getting a chance to say that I'm not doing something because नौकरी नहीं मिली इसलिए मैंने ये ठेला लगा लिया, या नौकरी नहीं मिली इसलिए मैंने वो काम कर रहा हूँ. That काम जो मैं कर रहा हूँ, that itself should be something which I aspire to.
Okay.
So, and that itself over time can help me to generate additional jobs. It does many times.
Yes.
But the feeling that I'm not really there, unless I get a job right at the beginning, this is a mindset, a thought process which actually needs, and it's worth shouting several times to break that sort of particular paradigm.
Okay.
So it should become a matter of choice, not by default. That
Yeah.
I couldn't get a job in government,
Yeah.
I couldn't get a job in private sector, I couldn't get anything to. So now I would.
So now I'll get a job. Now I'll put
So
it.
the moment he does as a
Yeah.
default,
He becomes a loser.
then
Right.
he's a loser.
Let me bring in Praful Ketkar now, editor, organizer, who joined us. Now, this is a day that we're celebrating, National Youth Day, which is the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekanand. Now, how is he a figure who can inspire the youth of today? A youth which is impatient, which wants to do much better than their parents ever did or generations earlier did. And what can you tell us about Swami Vivekananda that would inspire them to achieve their goals?
I think Swamiji's thought is most relevant for the young India today. We are always talking about the demographic advantage we have, but unless we link it to Swamiji's thinking, Swamiji on the one hand talks about the spiritualism, at the same time he speaks about football, energy, positive thinking, decision making and taking responsibility, and exactly that's the point that is expected in when you want to be an entrepreneur. Even when he talks about education, he says identify what you are, just don't be like a sheep,
Yes.
running behind each other. So identifying self, doing something meaningful and contributing to the society and nation building, he thinks this as a process. And that's why I think Swamiji's thinking can be very much inspirational. And in fact, whenever we are thinking about the process, now you were discussing about, earn while you learn.
Yes.
He speaks about integrating dharma and vigyan in his words, science and religion. That is never thought in our education system. Industry education interface, that is never thought in our system. When he went to Europe, in fact, he asked this specific question. On the one hand, I am trying to find out why we are ruled by others, but at the same time, I want to identify why they are ruling us.
Right.
And that's why, while touring in Europe, he specifically identified the scientific temper, the freedom to ask questions as the basic trait of that mindset, and he wants that to inculcate in Indian society. And that's why I think right from education thing to what is your goal in life, what is your purpose in life, identify according to your personality trait, and then translate it into tangible goals for the larger society. That's exactly what Swamiji is.
And do you feel all these programs the government has initiated, the flagship programs, even Swachh Bharat, not to just speak of Digital India or Make in India, now Startup India, they're all inspired in some way by what Swami Vivekananda espoused for the nation, to get to that place where he saw India?
See, for that, if we really want to appreciate the linkages between this program, keeping, say, Janadana Yojana or Make in India, and then
the
building
interests of the
upon
country and the youth.
other things, we have to understand Swamiji's thinking of integral vision. What he speaks about is we have to celebrate the differences, but at the same time we have to understand that we are linked to the same soul, same Brahman. So that integral thinking, cherishing that inner linkages between various things, living and non-living, that is the spirituality he stood for. And that's why, while thinking about policy making also, we have to have integral approach, and that's what exactly this government is doing. I think basic infrastructure is created through initiatives like Jan-Dhan, where many in large scale people are given access to the banking sector.
Yes.
And on the basis of that, Make in India, Digital India, these are the programs which will ultimately get integrated into this process. So this integral approach is basically what we have to learn from Swamiji's thinking.
That sounds wonderful. And Shubham, do you feel that the current global economic environment, the way it is, it will remain challenging, the way we want to see India progressing? Because right now, it is a rosy picture which is being painted by all, not just by institutions here in the country, but the World Bank. They're all saying that India is doing massively well. It will be the fastest growing large economy for years to come. Will overtake China. But do you feel that that is something that we have to ourselves be skeptical about and work against, so that we don't fall into some sort of a trap of thinking that we're doing well and it's not a problem at all?
That's an interesting thing, Gautam, that you talked about the word, you used the word being skeptical. I wish more people are skeptical, because while it's good when you are doing well, it's always better to know that there's always somebody else who can do better, and you yourself could making a horrible mess. Brazil, for instance, I mean, for 25 years, it had a spectacular run of growth.
It had a dream run, yeah.
And today, Brazil is in deep difficulty.
So is China.
Well, China's difficulty, we don't even want to think
It's
about
not
initially.
as bad as Brazil is right now.
I mean, we don't know, frankly speaking, because the scale of unwinding that's going around there is frankly far more difficult and will have much more challenging impact for the world. But what I'm saying is that if we take the example of Brazil, and there have been other cases across the world, it can be a pretty daunting thing. So even if we have run, and we have just run frankly very fast, only for about 5 to 8 years, and that's too short a spell for us to really start saying that we actually have got our act together. So essentially, the growth, as you said very right, the world isn't looking good at all. There are, frankly speaking, no growth drivers coming from anywhere in the world economy, and it won't
except
for a long time.
Except for our country.
Yeah. So if you look outside, there won't be anybody. So the only thing you can do is therefore say, like, that's it. That's the choppy sea. It's going to be that way. You can't do anything much about it. You just got to ensure that the ship of the state and the country does well, which means taking the right policy. It means basically, I'm not saying that the steps that are being saying are not good. They are good, but we would need to see far more of these coming at far rapid pace.
Okay.
Because that's the only way that we would be keeping on getting to new growth paradigms. Otherwise, I don't see anything much happening outside to really say that that would change.
Prof, you want to comment?
Yeah. Gautam, see, here again, I think Swamiji's thinking can come to our help. He talks about universal integration. We are talking about just economic integration.
Yes.
He spoke about the universal integration.
Naturally.
But in that process also, he says, like every individual has a purpose in life, every nation and society has a purpose in life. Instead of just implanting certain models from outside when it comes to growth, if we try to develop, we speak about the, for example, about the unorganized sector.
Yes.
How we can encash that? We are talking about demographic advantage. We know what Japan is going through. So one day these youth are going to be
They are
old.
going to age.
So what do we have that kind of foresight? So ultimately, if we really know what is our role in this world, what do we want to be, then perhaps we can chalk out better policy options than just following somebody else's path. So there I think Swamiji's thinking can help us in just blindly in last two shocks. In fact, this without much policy thinking, but these parallel things that are existing in rural areas, in parallel banking and nationalized, these things have saved us.
Yes, we're heading in the right direction, it seems, and let's hope that we can leverage it to the best of our ability, and that gainfully employs and engages our youth so that not just India can prosper and progress, but it's better for the entire world. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment. Well, that's it as far as the late edition tonight is concerned. Do stay tuned for all the latest to DD News.